begged. Daddy's busy and he can't take me, and I want to go make a sandcastle. Maggie sighed. She closed the romance novel she'd been reading and set down a half-empty glass of Pinot Blanc. Dylan, you know I don't enjoy sitting on the beach. Wait until your dad's finished, then go with him. He said he's going to be working for a really long time. I want to go now. Maggie walked to the kitchen where Gerald was halfway under the sink repairing a leaky pipe. Leaning down, Maggie asked, "How long are you going to be?" "A while," Gerald replied. "Can you take Dylan down to the beach when you're done? It'll be too late by the time I finish here. Why don't you take him this time? It's a nice day, not too hot. Can you please hand me the wrench?" Maggie removed a wrench from the toolbox and passed it to Gerald. "All right, but we're not staying long." "Okay, Dylan," Maggie said, returning to the living room. "We'll go for a little while. Go get your sand pail and shovel and grab me a beach chair." Maggie downed the rest of her wine. "And can we go to Dolly's and get a box of taut wire taffy?" "Sure, Dylan, we can get some taffy." Dylan gave a gleeful shout as he ran off to the laundry room to get the beach gear. Maggie walked back to the kitchen and pulled the chilled bottle of Pinot Blanc from the refrigerator. She filled her stainless steel travel mug. "We're going, Gerald. Be back soon." "Okie doke," Gerald mumbled from under the sink. Maggie grabbed a flowered silk scarf from the hallway table and tied it over her dark brown curls. Then she walked with Dylan from their house to the beach at the north end of the Rehoboth Boardwalk. It was early September, the tourist season was over, and the beach was deserted, much to Maggie's delight. She settled down in the weathered beach chair just shy of the shoreline as Dylan started happily digging in the wet sand. Maggie watched her young son as he laid his foundation for a sandcastle. Building sandcastles was Dylan's passion. Gerald said their son would grow up to be an architect. The sun was warm and a gentle breeze came off the ocean as high tide arrived. Maggie typically didn't like sitting on the beach and baking in the sun. Gerald, on the other hand, enjoyed the beach and always took Dylan along. But today's weather was pleasant and comfortable. Maggie unscrewed the lid of her travel mug and sipped the cool wine before resuming her novel. Despite the steamy romance that was developing between the book's main characters, Maggie began to feel drowsy. The warm sun, cool breeze, the sound of the ocean, all of these elements were like a lullaby. Maggie's eyes grew heavy. She woke with a start. Maggie felt disoriented as she tried to remember why she was on the beach. She had no idea how long she'd been asleep. The sun hid behind the clouds and the wind had picked up. Maggie looked to her right where Dylan had been crafting his sandcastle. The base of the castle and his shovel were there, but Dylan was gone. A moment later, she heard Dylan's voice. Looking up, she saw him out in the ocean, head barely above water, crying for help. Maggie panicked. She jumped up, but stood frozen with terror. Maggie felt helpless. She didn't know how to swim. She looked around frantically, but there was no lifeguard presence during the off-season. There was no one in sight. Dylan screamed again before he vanished beneath a huge wave. Suddenly, Gerald sprinted past Maggie, stripping off his shirt and kicking off both shoes. He dove into the water and started swimming toward the spot where Dylan went under. Maggie watched as Gerald dove beneath the water, resurfaced, then dove again, searching for his son. Finally, he resurfaced with Dylan and started swimming toward the shore. Gerald gently placed Dylan on the sand and started examining him as Maggie ran toward them. "Is he all right?" she asked breathlessly. Gerald didn't answer. His face was tense as he applied chest compressions. Maggie started to cry, sobs shaking her body. She turned to the sound of distant sirens. Somebody must have seen what happened and phoned 911, she thought, relieved that help was so close now. 2 paramedics appeared and tended to Dylan. Gerald fell back into the sand, soaking wet and exhausted. The paramedics placed Dylan on a stretcher. "I'll ride in the ambulance," Gerald barked at Maggie. "You get the truck and meet us in the hospital." "I want to go with you," Maggie cried. Teeth clenched, Gerald ordered, "Get the truck and follow us." He ran to catch up with the paramedics. Moments later, the emergency vehicle sped off toward the hospital. Trembling with fear, Maggie quickly gathered up their belongings and ran back to the house. She arrived at the emergency room 15 minutes later and found Gerald sitting in a chair, staring out the window. "Is he okay?" Maggie asked. "I don't know," Gerald replied, his voice shaking. "They're working on him now. I came to tell you that I finished the job. You were gone a long time." Maggie put her arm around Gerald's shoulders. I'm so sorry. I fell asleep. I should have been watching it. Gerald looked up at Maggie. His eyes flashed with an anger she had never seen before. That's right. You should have been watching it. Damn it, Maggie, you had one thing to do. Watch our son. Were you drinking? I don't really have to ask, do I? Of course you were. Twin doors opened and an ER doctor emerged. With a weary expression, he approached the couple and shook his head sadly. I'm terribly sorry. We did everything possible, but we lost him. The doctor paused for a moment, knowing his words would take time to sink in. You can go inside and see your boy in a few minutes. I'll have a nurse come get you. Again, I am so very sorry. Maggie burst into tears as the doctor walked away. Gerald stood frozen. Finally turned to Maggie. You never wanted a child. Even after Dylan was born, you didn't want him. You always treated him more like a bother, an annoyance. Maggie gasped at the accusations. That's not true, Gerald. No, it's true that I didn't really want children, not at first, but you wanted a son, and I wanted to give you a son because I love you, and I always loved Dylan. Well, we don't have a son anymore, Gerald said, so you should be happy now. That's a terrible thing to say, Gerald, Maggie said tearfully. A nurse escorted them to a room where Dylan lay lifeless on a cold metal table. A white sheet covered his small body. The nurse gently pulled the sheet down to reveal the boy's face. Maggie sobbed quietly. Silent tears ran down Gerald's cheeks. When they returned to the waiting room, Gerald grabbed the truck keys from Maggie. Without a word, he turned and headed for the parking lot. Maggie followed behind him. Maggie walked alone toward the water. It was cloudy and cold for early September. The chilly wind blew Maggie's long white hair back away from her face. She stopped, scanning the ocean, remembering that afternoon exactly 15 years ago. She continued down to the water's edge, moving slowly. The arthritis in her left knee was bothering her more than usual. As the waves washed over her feet, soaking her bedroom slippers, Maggie heard a voice call out, "Hey, Mom, what are you doing?" Maggie turned and gasped at the sight of her tall, handsome son. "Dylan, you're here." Dylan grinned. "Of course I'm here. Where else would I be?" Read the rest of the story to see what happens to Maggie.